Hi.
And a very good evening to you. Welcome to our special coverage of the London 2012 Paralympic Games, the opening ceremony at the main stadium tonight here in London. The rain clouds have finally cleared after a very gloomy day, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Chris Waddell, Paralympic champion, who is my co-commentator this evening. Hello.
Hello. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. I mean, what an exciting time, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and I tell you, we had so much rain today. It was pouring this afternoon in London, and about 6:30 this evening, we got the first glimpse of some blue sky. Here we have a flyover over the stadium. But look, the weather's cleared up just in time for this, Chris.
Exactly, and the thing is, it hasn't diminished any of the excitement for the games. London is literally just buzzing with excitement. I earlier today went out and saw the torch come along. And there was some rain there as well, which there might be a little bit of rain during this fortnight, I guess is what they call it here.
Yeah.
There might be a little bit of rain as we're going along, but it certainly didn't diminish any of the enthusiasm. People were there and people were excited to see the torch, which is the representation of the games coming to London, and it made its way here and will arrive here in the stadium this evening.
Looks absolutely magnificent, doesn't it, with the lights on? But you're right. I mean, the excitement, and I guess it was the same in Beijing 4 years ago, but it's the same now. The Olympics are over, but then the excitement, there's a little pause in the energy levels, and then the excitement absolutely builds again.
It really does. I mean, it's been 5 days in between when the transformation of the village took about 5 days. So people are excited, and I think that people know a little bit more about the Paralympics now. They've seen the billboards. They know some of the athletes. Kind of getting started here.
Well, wherever you might be, right around the world watching this coverage of the 2012 London Paralympic Games, this is the opening ceremony. Amy Bainbridge with you and Chris Waddell, bringing you coverage of this very special event, which involves thousands of performers and athletes, of course, as we'll see them later on in the evening.
And will be some participation from the 62,000 people in the audience as well.
There absolutely will, but we've got to keep that under wraps for the moment. We won't give away too many secrets.
No.
Ever since the dawn of civilization, people have craved for an understanding of the underlying order of the world. Why it is as it is, and why it exists at all. But, even if we do find a complete theory of everything, it is just a set of rules and equations. What is it that breathes fire into the equations, and makes a universe for them to describe?
Hawking there.
So the central theme of this opening ceremony is one of enlightenment, something that Stephen Hawking fits into, such a trailblazer in so many facets of his life.
And I think that idea of what is it that breathes fire into the equations is really something that's going to be important, something we'll see throughout the Paralympics, throughout the time of the competition. And the umbrella is a bit of a theme as well, isn't it, Amy?
It is one of invention and innovation.
I was
the
amazed.
Brolly, as we call it.
The Brolly,
the
exactly. I was amazed today to see how many people were armed with umbrellas when the rain came. Everybody seemed to have an umbrella. This is Samuel Fox back in 1952, I believe, 1852, 1852.
Yeah.
Wow, developed the umbrella. British industrialist.
This giant structure is to simulate the Big Bang, of which Stephen Hawking has written quite a lot about. And there's 600 performers there with their umbrellas, with LED lights in the middle. And we've got a choir of 430 singers as well.
And actually, I was in the stadium earlier and I was trying to figure out because you have these wires coming out of the back of the seats, and that's actually for the lights that you see up there. So it's going back and forth through the lights. I thought it was some sort of stereo system or something, but it actually is helping with the lighting system as well.
You're part of my entity, here for infinity. When the world has struck its part, when the world has dealt its cards, if the hand is hard, together we'll mend your heart. Because when the sun shines, we shine together. Told you I'll be here forever. Said I'll always be your friend. Took an oath, I'ma stick it out.
I think one of the things that they're also working on here is the sense of gravity, and the sense of playing with a little bit of space, and the sense of playing with how we move within that space as well, which hopefully is flawless.
Absolutely, but yeah, really defying, I guess, the convention of what you think is physically possible, and thinking outside the space, really.
It really is, and I think that's a little bit of what Stephen Hawking alluded to in his opening comment, is that there might be an equation for doing it, but there's a human equation as well that we can never discount. Let's see a bit of that as we come along here.
Took an oath, I'ma stick it out to the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we'll still have each other. You can stand under my umbrella. You can stand under my umbrella.
So this aerial choreography is done by Flawless, which featured on Britain's Got Talent. So many of our viewers, at least here locally, would be familiar with them. Perhaps not some other viewers around the world, but they're getting a good look now.
That's for sure.
It's impressive, isn't it? The stadium just looks fantastic tonight.
It really does, and certainly in East London, which has gone through a revitalization as a result of the Olympics coming here, revitalized the whole area. You see some of the dancers actually as well. These guys went through an extensive amount of training just to make this happen. An 8-week training program at Circus Space in London, which is funded by the Arts Council of England. Performers from all walks of life, including artists, sports people, and ex-servicemen, learn circus, aerial, and other performance skills in preparation for the ceremony. Really pretty amazing just what they were able to do and make this happen.
Yeah, Jenny Seeley, who's one of the artistic directors, yesterday we were given a briefing about this opening ceremony, and she described the experience as being terrifying because it's such a big responsibility. But she said, you know, it's been weeks and weeks of training, but years of preparation, really.
Miranda!
And here we're going to be introduced to the
Miranda!
central character of the evening, Miranda.
Go out into the world. Will you be, for all of us gathering here, our eyes, our ears, and our hearts? Shine your light on the beautiful diversity of humanity. Understand those rights that protect us. Look up, stretch your wings and fly. Will you take this journey for all of us? And will you set us free?
It's kind of interesting. Miranda's taken from Shakespeare's The
We
Tempest.
live in a universe governed by rational laws that we can discover and understand. Look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious.
That certainly is going to be a central theme, is the idea of being curious. But in Shakespeare's The Tempest, Miranda was looking to reclaim her rightful position, and I think that's also part of the statement here as well, is that will Miranda be able to be curious and find her rightful position?
That's right, with this central theme of enlightenment that the artistic directors chose to explore, and that saying from Stephen Hawking to look up at the stars, not down at your feet, and really just looking around at what's out there and what's possible.
Nicola Miles Wilden plays Miranda, is actually a professional actress, an assistant director at Gray Theatre Company's Power Wheelchair Dancing Troupe, Rhinestone Rollers. Exploring a bit of movement. This stadium will be hosting the athletics and also the field events later on, and there'll be a little bit different movement, but this is certainly some movement going on here. The idea of books will be important as well.
So this is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, so a giant book in the middle, which is essentially a recognition of equality of human beings and the rights of human beings, and also it promotes the development of friendly relations between nations, which is really what these games are all about. It's about human achievement, it's about sporting prowess, but it is also about nations getting along in the same space.
It is, and it's a hearkening back to the time when, back in the day when they would stop wars to have the Olympics, and this is certainly something like that. And this is a place where we have 166 nations. It's the most nations that have ever participated in the Paralympics, and we realize that we're a lot of individuals at that point, as opposed to the ideologies of our states. You see some of the interesting the sway poles there are pretty interesting. What are they? 4 meters tall.
And they're provided by an Australian-based performing arts company called Strange Fruit. So really this part of the performance is exploring science in a way. This is described as an interstellar cloud of dust, including ionized gases. So this is Principia, is taken from Sir Isaac Newton's mathematical treatise, Principia Mathematica. And these lyrics are celebrating science and human endeavour.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Majesty the Queen and the President of the International Paralympic Committee, Sir Philip Craven.
Certainly interesting at this point that this is the first time that the monarch has officiated at both the openings of the Olympic and Paralympic Games.
And of course, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth is celebrating her Diamond Jubilee
Royal Navy,
this year.
Army,
Huge
and
year for the
Royal
royal
Air
family.
Force.
And I guess she decided not to parachute in this time.
Much to our great disappointment.
I know, it really is. It's a bit of... So now we have members of the Royal Army and Navy, team leader Flight Lieutenant Marston. We have Halton. So certainly going with some of the military.
Yes, that's right. They're from the Royal Navy, Army and Royal Air Force. And we'll be able to introduce you to our flag raisers as well.
And the presenting of the flag is just such a huge part of it, because there's each country takes so much pride in being the host country, the host city. Obviously, London being a huge city within the world, really. But at the same time, everybody wants to display their flag and their pride, and you don't feel any more pride than you do when you're competing for your country or defending your country. So it's drawing a nice analogy. There's Sebastian Coe, who is the...
And the Prime Minister, David Cameron, was there as well, so... Of course, Prince William and Princess Catherine.
The flag raisers will be Able Stephen Patel, HMS King Alfred, Corporal Penman, RAF Louis Smith, and Lance Corporal Pilo.
Ladies and gentlemen, as is customary for those who can, please stand for the national anthem of the United Kingdom.
As you saw, the singing choir was made up of deaf people based in London and Liverpool.
Such a fantastic opportunity to get local talent involved, isn't it?
It is. And this is really interesting. The that the original, what became the Paralympic Games, started in Stoke in 1948, which is just about an hour north of here. Started with 16 athletes. Now we have 4,200 athletes who are going to be competing.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? And it's a real homecoming as well, in a way.
It really is a real homecoming, and a real homecoming for all of the athletes, because with the vision of a guy like Sir Ludwig Gutmann, who started that original program, it changed the way that a lot of athletes, a lot of disabled athletes look at themselves. At that point, most paraplegics, because it started with paraplegics, weren't going to live much more than 2 or 3 years. And this has changed the idea of physical activity as it relates to health. We certainly see Oscar Pistorius here, who is very visible throughout the Olympics and will be competing here in the Paralympics as well. But it's changed the outlook, and that's exactly what we're looking at with these openings, which sets the tone for the games that we'll see coming behind. You get an introduction to some of the sports as well. Wheelchair racing here.
I'm keeping an eye out for some pictures of you.
I don't think I'm in there yet. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm keeping a close watch. Of course, your last games, at least as a track athlete,
was in Athens in
2004.
Right, exactly, in 2004. And it was really interesting, I think, for me, the circular nature of that, which is where the Olympics started. The whole idea of the Olympics, and now this is where the Paralympics started, was here in England. And Paralympics, not meaning almost Olympics, but meaning parallel to the Olympics, which I think is really important.
Please welcome the athletes of the London 2012 Paralympic Games.
Well, here we go. We were just talking about how many athletes there are. 4,200. This is always the long bit, isn't it? Getting everyone in the stadium takes some time, because we go through all the countries, more than 160 countries competing.
It's the most exciting period of time, though, as well. As an athlete, you're sitting there outside waiting. You queue up with your team, and here's Afghanistan coming in here.
Afghanistan's flag bearer is Mohammed Fahim Rahimi. He's a powerlifter. And tell us, from an athlete's perspective, I know that it's not always possible to go to every opening ceremony, because often you've got sporting commitments the next morning. But your last experience, tell us about that. What was it like walking into or being in the stadium, entering the stadium?
The stadium, it's funny as an athlete, because we often compete in complete obscurity. You'll be at a big event, and there's some of the best athletes in the world will be there, and you won't have much of a crowd. You come to the Paralympics, and it's when you have a crowd. And you notice it even more at the opening ceremonies, where there's 62,000 people here. There's an energy, an electricity that you never feel.
Nadia Medj is from track and field athletics. She's the flag bearer for Algeria.
And the thing for the athletes is this is really an indication of how important an event it is, that so many people are coming to the opening ceremonies. You feel like they're literally reaching out and touching you as you're coming through, which then, as an athlete, you want to perform at your best for them, and hopefully even better than you might have imagined.
Look, I'm just so excited to see the crowds here this time. I can't wait to see what the atmosphere is like, because I just remember Beijing just embraced the Paralympics, and all the athletes we spoke to were like, wow, we've never had it this good. This is amazing, the support we're getting. But I don't know, I think London might even top that.
It's really funny when you see Andorra coming in here, which is another of the amazing countries that are going to be performing for gold. But you look at the sense that after going to Beijing, so many people said that it can never ever be topped, just because there were so many people and there was so much that went into it. But London, which is following on the heels of Beijing as the following Summer Games, said, we're going to make sure that this is the best Paralympic Games ever. And I think one of the indications is that there are 100,000 tickets left.
Yeah,
all the rest of the tickets have been sold. It's absolutely amazing.
Many venues you can't get into anymore.
No.
So the track cycling, that's sold out every day of competition. 6,000 people will be in the stands at that beautiful velodrome over the next few days.
what is it? It's 4.5 million out of 4.6 million that have been sold, I believe,
Wow.
at this
And they
point.
sold really quickly too, didn't they? I mean, as soon as they went on sale, there was a frenzied buy-up of tickets.
People don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
They really don't.
Antigua and Barbuda.
Jamoy Alam Pilgrim from athletics is the flag bearer. You can see on your screens there.
And the thing is, you wear your country's uniform when you're competing, but you wear your country's uniform as well as you're coming in here. So all of these athletes will have been given this uniform, this parade outfit, which
Yep.
hopefully you get a chance to wear that parade outfit again, because that's what you wear when you get a medal.
Right. Because that suit that just went past was looking pretty sharp.
That looks very sharp. That looked great. That looked great with a medal on it. Argentina has a big contingent of people here.
Guillermo Maro, the swimmer, is the flag bearer for Argentina. Well, certainly they're getting the points for enthusiasm at this early stage, but we'll see who can top them. But
It is,
yeah,
and-
look, like you said, I mean, a very large team there, and they're here to have a great time. They're so happy. Fantastic.
And you see so many of them documenting it for the rest of their lives, really. This is the kind of thing that it is one of the pinnacles of, certainly of your sporting life, where you are able to, you want to put this down for the rest of your life and really look at that and be able to say, that's something I did.
Armenia.
The athletes work a long time just to get to this point. Argentina had 110 athletes. Armenia actually has 4 athletes. So you'll see some diversity as far as the size of the size of the contingent that the country is bringing.
Absolutely.
The Chinese will be the biggest again, but we've seen a distinct difference and a cultural difference. Here's Australia, which has a big
special
contingent.
cheer.
You might know a couple of these guys.
I certainly do. And Greg Smith, our wheelchair rugby star, and who's had a very long and illustrious career.
And
as
a former
Paralympian.
wheelchair racer as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, 276 people coming from Australia. You see Louise Sauvage there as well, who's a coach. But it's interesting, culturally, one of the things that we saw in China, which China will be
There's
one of the
Kurt
biggest
Fernley,
teams.
our
Yeah,
champion wheelchair racer, just disappeared off screen.
some of these people are definitely heroes back home. You live in Australia, where you'll see
Absolutely.
some of these are some of your biggest sporting heroes, aren't they?
Absolutely. I'm just trying to keep an eye out for Kelly Cartwright. I'm sure she's going to pop up on our screen, but she's a track athlete, a sprinter as well as a long jumper, and she's got some pretty big expectations on her for these games as well.
Pretty dapper outfits for the Australians,
There's
bringing
Jason
that
Helwig,
green and gold
our,
together.
Team head there. Yeah, that's right.
I have to say, Sydney was one of my favorite games that I competed in, and it was because of the Australian people that they just had so much fun, and that's where I think that the athletes are going to have a great time here in London, because the people here in London are so excited about the games. Austria in their red and white coming in. Maintaining the umbrella theme with the signs, the companies or the country's signs.
One of the athletes, I missed who it was, but he just went past on the screen and he had the country code AUT shaved into the side of his head. The only one I've seen so far. There might be more though.
I think you might be right.
The
There'll be
hairdresser
some.
at the Paralympic Village has been busy at work for them, no doubt.
I think you'll see a fair amount of tattoos as we go along as well. Temporary tattoos for the most part. The country's flags. But this is the excitement. This is the goosebump kind of thing for the athletes, that you feel it mounting, and especially the athletes that are coming in for the first time. It's amazing.
I guess it must be a time, it's such excitement, but you've really got to contain the nerves and the high and the buzz that this would give you, don't you? Because you've still got to focus on your competition.
It's one of the hardest things that you come to an event like this, and it's entirely different than any other event, but yet it's also the most important event that you want to do. So you want to be able to ride that crest of energy, that wave of energy that you get from the audience, but at the same time be able to focus it. And it's so funny how you train over and over again, and you teach your body what to do, but then your head wants to get involved.
Absolutely.
At this point, because it's so much more important seemingly, and everything feels different as a result. It can be a huge challenge, and this is what the athletes are working on. So Bahrain actually has 4 athletes coming in, and you see that we do have a variety of different disabilities. You certainly will get that in a variety of on all of the teams.
Ahmed Mashaima is the flag bearer for Bahrain.
One of the things I was always thinking as we came in was the first time that we got a chance to actually get on the track. They don't really look like they're on the track, but I remember coming into Atlanta thinking, oh, this track feels fast. This is good.
First chance. And does it get easier to contain the nerves and the excitement as you go? Because you've been to a number of games now, winter and summer games.
It's funny. I don't know that it gets any easier, because sometimes when you come in when you're young and you don't know anything, you don't know what to worry about.
Sure.
And so there's just the excitement of it, and you do what you need to do. Here's Belarus coming in. Those are some dapper outfits. Look at those shoes, huh? Those are good looking. But the thing is, yeah, sometimes it's easy without expectations, that you come in early on and you don't really have the expectations, whereas you progress, then you've got more expectations, and it can be a lot more of a challenge. So I think each time presents a different challenge for the athletes, and trying to manage it. Sometimes if you've had success early on, you can at least go back to that memory bank and say,
sure,
okay, I know that I could do it then. So I know I can do it when the lights come on, which really is a big part of it. Bringing in the country colors in their outfit, which is really important. Belgium actually has 7 athletes coming in.
Yeah, so the reason, I guess, some of these teams look bigger than they actually are is because a number of officials are marching as well.
Exactly.
Getting into the spirit.
You will, and it looked like there was a guide dog that was accompanying as well. Or
yep, here's one. Oh,
proudly sporting the flag. That is one well-behaved dog, which is
so
exactly
calm.
what.
Can you imagine? I can't imagine my dog.
Well, I think that's how they get that job.
Absolutely.
But you can certainly see the excitement.
Benin!
Actually, it's a contingent of 4, but there's 1 athlete marching, and he looks like he's pretty happy to be here.
So I guess, this has started reasonably late in the evening, so a number of athletes would have just said, look, I've got to compete tomorrow.
Oh, here we go. Here's the rest of the contingent. Okay. It is one of the questions that the athletes have to answer for themselves. If they're competing tomorrow, what are they going to do? And certainly Bermuda. I remember seeing Bermuda walk through in the Olympics in Salt Lake, and they were dressed exactly the same in Salt Lake as they are right now.
Oh, wow.
The Bermuda shorts, those travel. If you're from Bermuda, you're going to wear your Bermuda shorts.
Fantastic. Oh, it's great to see so many smiles. But just back to what we were talking about, because, for example,
Bosnia and Herzegovina!
the track cycling kicks off 9:30 tomorrow morning. You've got to be ready to go. And if this doesn't wind up until 11:30, 12 at night, you've got to get. Luckily, the athletes' village is reasonably close. So
the athletes' village is really close, and the athletes' village is within walking distance for the athletes, which makes a huge difference because you're not dealing with the logistics of getting on and off of buses, which can be a real challenge when you've got all the athletes, of 4,200 athletes leaving all at the same time, all wanting to get on the first bus to get home. So it's a real challenge. And one of the things that's interesting, I mean, we certainly talked about the idea of interrupting war in order to compete, and the idea of athletes or countries getting along. And you see Bosnia and Herzegovina that has been in the position of war, and a lot of these athletes will come from war, unfortunately. But it's also fortunate that there's a venue for them to compete. Brazil will be hosting the games in 2016.
Oh, there would be so much excitement amongst that team. Not just for tonight, but knowing that you're the next host country. It's pretty special.
Oh, it really is. And you start seeing that ramp up as well, because there is a much bigger investment that comes from each country as they're going to be the host country. They don't want to host and have all the other countries take the medals out of their country.
Absolutely
They
not.
want to keep a bunch of those medals there. So you're starting to see that investment. You will see that investment coming from the Brazilians here. We expect some great results from them. They look like they're having a pretty good time too.
Fantastic. Every Brazilian I've ever met has known how to have a good time.
I think it comes naturally, exactly.
Absolutely.
We do see a little face paint there. We're talking tattoos. That might be a little bit more than a tattoo.
It's extreme.
They have a contingent of 270 athletes.
Still
which
far
is
off the biggest, though, isn't it?
It's far off the biggest, but it's right around the same as Australia. Australia with 276, which Australia obviously is a country that has made a huge investment in the Paralympics and has a really, really very successful athletes. My Portuguese
having a
isn't so
great
good, so I'm
time.
not
No.
exactly sure what they're saying.
You can
but
get the gist of it,
I
though.
think so. I think so. Some of that sounded distinctly like Brazil, which I think that they might be saying. There is a tremendous amount of pride associated with putting on your country's colors. Sometimes the scarves might be needed here. It has been a little bit chilly. It can be chilly on occasion during the summer months here in London. It's been warm and it's been chilly while we've been here. While I've been here for about 3 days so far. So
Monday was absolutely beautiful.
It was
and
spectacular.
Actually, yesterday was very nice as well. But today, when that rain hit this afternoon,
BRUNEI,
it really,
DARUSSALAM!
really dropped down
it
in temperature.
did, and I think it's going to be chilly for a couple of days, but it's supposed to be a heat wave coming in next weekend. So we'll see what that brings. And another thing that the athletes have to deal with is just the variable conditions as far as the weather is concerned. Is it going to be warm? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be wet? Is it going to be dry? And those
Did you
are-
have a preference for weather when you were racing?
Did I have a preference?
I mean,
Yes.
did you kind of like it when it was a bit cold and wet because other people would, get a bit more nervous so you could take the advantage? Or
The funny thing is that I never ran very well in the rain, but my only summer medal was in the 200 meters in Sydney, and it was pouring down rain.
there you have it.
So sometimes you just really don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess, too hot is never good, regardless, really, is it? It's,
The way that I've always looked at weather conditions is that you really have to love the weather conditions that are presented to you.
Yep.
And so it's hot, you think, I love it when it's hot, and hope that my competitors really
Burkina
don't love it when it's
Faso!
hot.
Does it have much of an impact, though, on how fast the track will run for you?
The track can get a little bit softer when it gets warmer. There are definitely times that's the case. I think that this track is smoking fast. As a Paralympian, I always watch the Olympics, and I was really happy to hear that the 5 and 10K runners were complaining of shin splints at the Olympics, because that meant that it was a
Means
really
it's
hard track.
Yep.
And so for the
Breaking the
wheelchair,
wheels, yep.
exactly. For a wheelchair athlete, it meant that it was going to be really fast. And we've got Burundi coming in here. It is a bit of a a perma grin kind of thing when you come into this. It's sort of like you finish the opening ceremonies and go, "How my face hurts," because I've been smiling so much the whole time
for a couple of hours
because it is so exciting.
So there's Cambodia, the Cambodian team on our screen. Feels like we're whipping through it all very quickly.
We are. Well, when you have 4,200 athletes, you've got to make sure to get them in as quickly as possible. It's great to see some of the traditional dress as well. That's one of the great parts about being in the Paralympics, like being in the Olympics, where it's a cultural experience. And the cultural experience means that you end up having friends all over the world, people with whom you are competing. You get to sample a little bit, and you get to know somebody who's from a totally distant place that you might not ever visit in your life, but you feel like you visited as a result of getting to know this individual. This is a country that I've visited a couple of times. Been to Canada a bunch.
I was going to say more than a couple.
They have always a strong Paralympic team. It's funny, I just saw an old American who's now coaching their rugby team, Kevin Orr, right there, who was in my very first road race ever, and he was considerably faster than I was. I think he took his gloves off, took a drink of water, and I still never saw him.
So around 260 athletes.
262 athletes for the Canadians. So they're in and around that size of Brazil and Australia. The maple leaf being really distinctive. Obviously, Canada hosted the games in Vancouver. So the most recent Paralympic Games were in Vancouver in 2010. Those were the Winter Games. And you will get some athletes who will carry over. So I have a bit of a soft spot for some of those athletes. I think we'll see some of them later.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick turnaround, and you'd know this from your experience, but when you only have 2 years between games, so of course many people will just stick to either summer or winter disciplines, but we do see some athletes. It's been a rarity, but it does seem to be this time around. There's a number of athletes that have competed in Vancouver 2010 and are now here in London competing in a different event. It doesn't give you much time to recover mentally as well as switch on physically to a completely different event.
No, it doesn't at all. And the thing is that generally, I remember when I was skiing and I was racing wheelchairs, it meant that it was a world championship year and a Paralympic year in the same year. So it made it a really, really big year. But I felt like it complemented, the wheelchair racing complemented my skiing, much more so than my skiing complemented the wheelchair racing, because I was going into the season really fit as a result of my wheelchair racing season. And some of the athletes will do complementary sports. You'll have some wheelchair racers and some Nordic skiers. You'll have some cyclists and some Nordic skiers. You'll have some cyclists and some alpine skiers who are sort of similar to what I was doing. And it all makes it interesting. I think it's a harkening back in some ways to the way that the sport was, but it is getting to the point where it's so specialized that you don't have the luxury of not training the way that everybody else is training. So Chile, what about this? These are some of those southern hemisphere countries. So these are the summer games.
Sure.
But yet it's winter.
Yep.
And what's that like to prepare for an athlete leaving winter and coming to summer?
Well, I can only speak from personal experience when I competed in triathlon world championships at an amateur level. I will say that right now. But we came out of an Australian winter to compete in Germany in September. And it was really hard. I mean, it's very hard to train for a sport like triathlon during the middle of winter. I was living in Canberra at the time.
Now, the People's Republic of China is the biggest team here at 414 athletes. Now, I found that it was really interesting, and this is some of what sport can do for the culture of a country, where for the longest time China had a very, very small contingent of athletes, and I think at one point they said that there actually weren't disabled people in China, which I think is a bit misleading. When you have 1 billion people, the math really doesn't work. But when they had the games, they decided that they were going to be the most competitive. China is probably the team to watch in Beijing. They won more medals than the U.S. and Great Britain combined.
Extraordinary.
They will be dominant. They've made their decision. They're going to be dominant. But it was all over the television. The Paralympics was all over the television. It was great to see, and I think that really is a lot of what we're talking about with this idea of being curious, with Stephen Hawking's idea of being curious. Maybe you'll see something that you didn't think you'd see otherwise. And in China, now they're seeing something that they didn't think they'd see otherwise, and they're seeing the most dominant team. So that's certainly open to competition at the moment. We'll see what happens.
But they are the favourites, really, to bring home the most medals at these games, these Paralympics, even though obviously Great Britain is the host nation and will have that home ground advantage.
Right.
And
you often see a tremendous uptick from the host country. And Great Britain might well have that uptick, and I'm sure they're looking to knock off the Chinese. They're the ones on the top of the hill right now.
Well, all will be revealed.
So we go from 414 with the Republic of China to 58 athletes from Colombia, which is a fairly decent contingent, but at the same time doesn't really compare with the Chinese. And you get a variety of different support. You get a variety of different support from the countries throughout. Some of these countries are putting it together as best they can with local support. Some have governmental support. Some have major corporate support. But as we see, it's a tough challenge, and that certainly does not mean that some of these countries that are that have smaller contingents or have less support doesn't discount those athletes, because there certainly will be some of those athletes who can be the best in the world.
Absolutely, and in many ways it makes it even more impressive that they make it to compete at a world level despite having not as much support in their home country.
It really does.
You still have to, I mean, there's no discounting here. You still have to go through a qualification process for your region. So you've still got to be the best in your region.
You still have to be the best in the region, and in a lot of the sports you have to run qualifying standards just to be able to get into the events. Mm-hmm. So everybody here, the beauty of the Paralympics is it is the top of sport. It is the top of sport for everybody throughout the world. It is the most prepared that you're going to be. You're going to basically prepare to be at your best at this moment, and everybody's doing it. So that's the cool part. If you can win, you beat the best on the biggest stage when everybody's prepared the most. We're seeing Costa Rica coming through here. And it is kind of funny because the people sitting there in the stands who probably are primarily British seem like they are part of every country as the country comes in. The country comes into the stadium, and they seem to give a little bit to every single country.
Absolutely.
Côte d'Ivoire, the African countries here. Great.
Some pretty loud
uniforms.
shirts there.
They are.
Croatia!
That's great. Why not make a statement? Croatia.
And you know what? Those flags and those are heavy.
I'll bet.
He's given it all he has, but he's going to be tired by the time he's done with that.
By the time you've done a lap of the stadium.
But he's not feeling any of it right now, which is oftentimes exactly what you feel as an athlete, that you're out here and you have that kind of support from the audience, and you often don't feel the pain that you feel so much other times in your career.
One of my enduring memories from the Beijing Paralympics closing ceremony was when they handed a huge flag over to Boris Johnson, the London mayor, and the flag was about twice as tall as him on a pole, right. And he waved it with such enthusiasm and vigour, but it was like he was going in slow motion because it was so heavy and awkward. But back then, really set the tone for how excited they were to be hosting these games. And He's been a great ambassador for the event. I must
He
say.
has been a great ambassador for the event. And that's, I think, what everybody feels. What you feel as a spectator is very similar to what you feel as an athlete, because I think you live and die with the performances of the athletes, and it is such an emotional performance and a celebration of what's possible as a human being. So these victories, I think, are often shared victories where you as the audience are watching, we as the audience are watching, and we see a tremendous performance. We go, wow, like that's what we as human beings are capable of doing. And
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic coming in here. Nice to see their umbrella carrying woman wearing the same colors as the country.
Bit of dancing going on among the Czech Republic athletes. Fantastic.
And it's one of the interesting things as well is that a lot of
Oh,
these
they've got
athletes,
gumboots on. They were well prepared.
they might well be.
Wonder if they rushed out and bought them this morning when they saw how awful the weather was. But
They might have found some that went with their outfits, and they
That's
said,
right.
these will be
Let's
perfect,
do
let's
it."
put them on. So the Paralympics actually started back in Stoke in 48 with paraplegics.
right.
And then the amputees were added later, and the visually impaired were added later. Oftentimes, you don't necessarily compete with that. So this group of people, this team, you're not together with that team all the time. You're often training and traveling with people who are competing in the same events that you are. So, like for me, I knew the wheelchair athletes a whole lot better than I knew the visually impaired and the amputees. But yet, this is the coming together of the whole country, or the whole team to represent the country. And so you make a whole lot more friends as a result, just even within your own team, not just within the other teams.
And I guess in the village as well, I mean, you end up rooming with people. You might get to know a few secrets pretty quickly in that village.
You might get to know a few secrets in that village, that's for sure. I think there are over 1,800 wheelchair participants in the village, which says a tremendous amount about the accessibility of East London at this point.
Sure.
It's going to, I think it's improved greatly.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's Denmark. Yes, I went for a walk through the athletes' village yesterday. It was peaceful, beautiful, and a very, very happy place. It seemed it had such a nice atmosphere. People were just sort of around. Some were heading off to training. Others were sitting around chatting, catching up with old friends, getting to know their teammates from the same country as well, like you said.
It is, and you see people in the dining hall, which is more of a dining tent, which not to diminish what's in the tent, because it is gigantic. This thing is huge. This is the size of a football field, if not bigger. I mean, it's a huge place, and you run into a whole lot of people, and you end up meeting a whole lot of people. It's sort of the common ground because everybody's going to go there to eat.
And they go to great lengths to cater for all the athletes' needs too, don't they?
They do, and it's become amazing. I mean, it's become where some of these athletes from some of the underprivileged countries will actually go to the polyclinic, and it might be the only time that some of these athletes actually go to get a chance to go to the doctor.
Sure.
So they'll come here and they'll utilize some of that, and the village will be transformed. Later on, this will become housing for people. This will be apartments and things like that. So a whole neighborhood has grown up. They call it the Olympic Village, but it will eventually be a neighborhood, which is kind of cool that neighborhood was the Olympic Village as well.
Ecuador.
Jessica Silvana Lalama Vega, the swimmer, is the flag bearer for Ecuador. It's an absolute party.
It is. It really is. And it's a huge honor to be the flag bearer.
Sure. Yeah.
The athletes will vote on that to determine who they want to be the flag bearer, who they want to have as their flag bearer. And it really is. It's a great honor to be able to carry that flag. As you see right there, look at that, right on cue.
Wonderful.
kissing the flag, happy to be representing Ecuador.
Egypt.
And interesting that we're able to go from South America to Africa. Obviously, we're going in alphabetical order here. There is one exception that I think you'll probably figure out.
That's right.
It is alphabetical order as we're going along. But you go from South America to Africa and then actually to Central America. So kind of interesting just how you do that, and that's the proximity that you also have in the Olympic Village to countries that you might not have ever visited.
It's nice in the Olympic Village how everyone, sort of slings up their flags over the balconies, and you can quite easily see that, certain countries are basically right next to each other. And it's nice to see. It's a very inclusive atmosphere there.
There's an inclusive atmosphere. There's still a competitive atmosphere.
El Salvador.
Trying to remember where it was. I think it was in Sydney. There was something that happened with the Canadian moose that they put on top of their dormitories. Somebody might have stolen it.
Well, I mean, what were they expecting? It's a sitting target.
It was returned, but people display their flags and their identity. Really, it's on display, and there's a lot of pride involved in that. So it's pretty funny just to see to what length some countries will go to display their pride, and to what length other countries will go to see what they can do to have a little bit of fun with that pride. Ethiopia coming in here. You see, sometimes they give that flag bearer just a little bit of space to be able to really enjoy the time.
Own that space.
Faroe Islands.
And certainly the summer games are different than the winter games in that there are a whole lot of countries that pretty much every country can do some of the summer games. I think that the summer games in some ways are more inclusive because what's the simplest version of sport is probably running.
Sure.
And you don't really need much of anything to run.
Yeah, you're right. You make an interesting point because winter sports, I mean,
there's a lot more equipment.
And many countries don't have access. We don't have access to ski fields. Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have winter.
Yep, don't have winter.
And so you've got a part of that. So some of the purity of the summer games is really cool, where you have simple sports like running, like swimming.
Yep.
So we say that, and we go directly to a sport that has tremendous winter.
Absolutely.
Part of the country in the Arctic Circle, Finland.
Leo Pekatati.
And they might well have a little
the flag bearer.
Winter camouflage going on with those.
I think so.
With those jackets.
They were well prepared for the cooler evening.
And you do see some hats on here as well. And it is a little bit chilly in London, but it should be warm later on but we will see just about everything here. And that's the hard part. That's the nervousness as an athlete. Macedonia coming in here.
I guess you'd expect no less from London though, really. I mean, weather-wise,
you really don't. Yeah. And I always thought that the best athletes were the athletes who could perform under all conditions.
Sure.
And the fact of the matter is that for every athlete, you never have a perfect competition. So if you realize that you're not going to have a perfect competition, it's a matter of sort of embracing whatever's going to go on. France again has had a tremendous team. I raced against a bunch of these guys for a long time on the track. Some of them are still here.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see some of these athletes who have retired and then decided that they wanted to come back.
Doesn't tug at your heartstrings at all, does it?
Oh,
I could be back there competing, and
at this point it feels like my time has definitely passed me. The part that I really miss, which is funny, is the training part.
Sure.
Is getting out there, the lifestyle of being an athlete. There's one of the guys, Pierre Fairbank, who I used to compete with. And it's kind of funny, because that really is, it's a tremendous feeling of being able to put all that work into your performance.
So is it, I guess the structuring of your life as well as the bigger picture goals that you're constantly working towards? Are they the two?
It's the bigger picture goals. It's the making a difference every single day.
Sure.
It's the commitment to doing things correctly each time that you're doing it, and it's the passion. It's the passion for your sport. For many of us, or most of us, it's our first love, and it's the thing that you will put everything you possibly have into it. And I think that's the part I miss. But the competition part is amazing too, because that's about controlling all the elements, controlling the thoughts that you have, controlling the emotions that you have, and still being able to get that performance. Obviously, this part has nothing to do with controlling the emotions.
You can all let it go, but I mean, really you still have to be able to keep it in check, don't you, and put it back in the box at the end of the day, and then focus on what's ahead, not just get too carried away with the evening and then be exhausted the next day, coming off that huge high.
It's a ridiculous balance. It really is, and I don't know that there's any formula for it. You have to try to figure out how to create that balance, and how to, because this is also one of the biggest moments of your life. You want to feel it, you want to experience it, you want to remember it for the rest of your life. You want to create that memory, but yet there's the other part of you need to do your job, and it's a really delicate balance. I'm sure all of these athletes are thinking about it, though they might not be thinking about it right now.
Well, it's one of those things, though, isn't it? I mean, you enjoy yourself to an extent at a night like tonight, and just know that the closing ceremony, you're really going to be able to let your hair down and not worry about a thing. But when you have a competition ahead of you, your mind is very much focused on that. So you'll allow yourself a little bit of enjoyment, but I guess it's just not letting yourself get too...
You can't get too high or too low.
Too high, yeah.
But it's also, you end up doing a lot more of an inventory of how you feel than you do at a lot of other events. I was talking to an athlete that I know, with whom I competed, one of my former teammates, in the dining hall yesterday. I said, well, how are you going? How are things going? And he's like, told me how his workout had went, and it sounded like he was going really fast. And it's like, I'm not sure if I feel like I'm going fast. It looked like I was going fast, but yet you don't quite have that locking in, and you want to feel great as you come in. You've come off the airplane, which is an absolute brutal thing oftentimes on your
absolutely.
body. Here's another one of the big teams, is Germany, one of the traditional powerhouses. But that's the hard part, is that he's saying, wow, it looked like I was going fast, but I'm not sure that I really feel like I'm going fast yet. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting that first race out of the way, or that first competition out of the way, or that first moment even, but then you can settle in and say, okay, well, I know what I'm doing.
And is it right to think that most, or at least many, of the wheelchair races will be in multiple events, won't they, in terms of multiple distances? Or
most of them will, yes. Yeah, they will. Wheelchair racing in a lot of ways is sort of similar to swimming, where you can get athletes who are doing a variety of different events and sometimes different distances. It's not as specific, where if you look at runners, you say, well, the 100 and 200 meter guys, there's no way that they're going to run a 1500.
Absolutely not.
And I'm
or
pretty
even
sure
a 400,
they would be the first one to tell you. And I remember talking to a retired sprinter at one point. I said, well, do you run now? And he said, no, I was a sprinter. I'm not like I'm going to go for a 5-mile run.
Yes, I remember seeing an interview with Melinda Gainsford, one of Australia's great 200-metre runners, after she retired, and she was trying to work out a way to keep fit, and so she started jogging. She said, I'd never jogged further than a couple of 100 metres in my life. So running for half an hour is a whole new thing for me, and it's, I'm learning, and it's great. It's a totally different way of me looking at physical exercise. I thought, wow, it is, isn't it?
It can be a change, and that, I think, is one of the cool things, that you continue to grow as an athlete and do something that's a little bit different. I do think that the African countries definitely have some of the best outfits going here.
Absolutely. Check this out, Ghana. Looking sensational.
There is a fair amount of trading that goes on within the Olympic Village as well. Usually not this early on, but there will be some trading of uniforms. Sometimes you'll wear your uniform at other times later on, but you might not. The Queen looking on. Greece, which hosted the 2004 games. They were in Athens. It is a bit deceiving where you see that one guy carrying the flag and you think, wow, the Greece is just, it's
really
a
fallen
team
off.
of one. But they actually have more than one. They have 111 members of their contingent here.
Looking very sleek, their uniforms.
They are. The Greeks always look pretty good. They always look like they're ready to go from here to whatever dinner or party they need to. Really is kind of the definition of the parade uniform, is that it is a bit of a party. As you said, the closing is a little bit more of a party than the opening is. A lot of their athletes are walking. And I did the Salt Lake Games in 2002. It was funny because that was my 4th Winter Games. And my roommate, it was his first games. And he could not have been more excited. And to see the guys who it was their first games, they were jumping out of their skin. They were so excited. And just the feeling, it was literally, I mean, there's this pulsing. It's almost like being next to a speaker with it on full bass, where you just, you feel the energy of the crowd as you're coming in here.
Yes, full house tonight at the stadium. More than 60,000 people in the stands. There, and of course, as we mentioned before, 4,200 athletes. And all up, combined with the performers, more than 6,000 people down in the stadium to celebrate this opening ceremony.
It's amazing to see some of these countries like Haiti that have suffered such difficulty recently, and seeing some of these athletes coming and getting a chance to represent their country. And certainly that's rehabilitation for a lot of the population, is to see the success of some individuals. It can prop a lot of us up.
Honduras!
Back to the more classic uniform. Again with the blazer and trousers. Impressed with those dancers.
Yes. They put a lot of time in.
A lot of effort and energy.
And as you can see, the athletes, as they come in, they do their half a lap, and then they go and get to their seats, and they will be here for the rest of the show.
Yep, you're trapped in after that, aren't you? There's
You
no
most
going
definitely
anywhere.
Every once in a while, you can find a way up, but most of the athletes actually really want to be here for the full show. This is why they come. And it is the kickoff of the event. This is where you get that feel, and some of what we'll see later on is part of the culture. The host city gets an opportunity to share its culture with all of us who've come to visit, come to compete, but also come to visit. And to me, that's the coolest part. You don't get a chance to see a lot of the country when you're an athlete. I felt like as a track athlete, I would see the village or the hotel and the track. And you go back and forth between the two, and you say, oh, well, you just travel all the time. It must be great. You're on vacation the whole time. You're like, really? No, I kind of know where I want to return. And some of how you know where you want to return is by what the country shares with you. And then also, one of the biggest things are the volunteers. There are a tremendous amount of volunteers who are here who are so helpful. And as an athlete, that's often your contact with the local people is through the volunteers. And they're so excited to be here. I mean, some of my drivers have come in, like this morning, 2.5 hours out. He drove 2.5 hours in to be here this morning to drive around. So it's pretty amazing to see that.
It is. 70,000 volunteers. I can't quite get my head around that and the coordinating of all the different roles. But you're right, and my experiences have been 100% positive since I've arrived as well. The volunteers have been so helpful, so enthusiastic and so welcoming.
They are, and I think one of the things that they really enjoy about the Paralympics is that the athletes are happy that they're here.
Sure.
But they also get a chance to get some contact with the athletes, to interact with the athletes. So Indonesia with 10 athletes, but it's really interesting the following country is a bigger contingent than I had anticipated. We'll get to that. Got the Indonesians coming here in some of their traditional wear. You can see the uniforms aren't all uniform, which is one of the cool parts. There will be a variety of pieces of the uniform and getting to show, and these certainly are pretty impressive outfits, that's for sure. Here's the next country that I was talking about, the Republic of Iran, which has 100 athletes.
That's impressive.
It's a really big group of athletes.
It's quite an even spread, I think, with Iran's athletes. I know they've got a couple of cyclists. They're reasonable in the swimming as well. They're kind of splayed across.
Harry and Kate up there looking.
That's right.
With some of the royals, they made a lot of appearances during the Olympics. I hope that they will make a lot of appearances during the Paralympics.
I think there's certainly an expectation that they will.
I think they will, and that's one of the hopes for the Paralympians is that it's not just about the pomp and circumstance of the opening ceremonies, that it really is about the competition. It's about the quality of the competition and the quality of the entertainment that the competition shows. And I think that, for a lot of us watching the Olympics, it is about this idea of what are we capable as human beings. But the Paralympics also shows what we're capable of as human beings. And I think in some ways it's easier to relate to, in that we all have our reason why we're not great at something, and yet somebody who seemingly has a lot of reasons not to be great at something is great at it.
Right.
Forces us to look in the mirror, which I think is one of the things that the Paralympics really has to offer. And you do get a variety of the coaches and administrators who will march with the athletes as well. A lot of flags out there.
Absolutely.
Iraq!
Haris Al-Algili is the flag bearer for Iraq. Will be in the powerlifting. One of the sports I'll be commentating over the next 10 days or so.
And people can stay tuned to Paralympic Sport TV for all of the events as they move through. There'll be a variety of commentators. There's our mayor, right?
Yep.
Mayor of London.
Boris Johnson and Princess Anne sitting alongside him. Of course, she was out watching the equestrian at the Olympics. I wonder whether she'll be watching the equestrian at the Paralympics. I dare say so. Ireland.
And the Paralympics, different from the Olympics, you get athletes who are going into different sports. I ran into one of the guys from Ireland that I'd raced with, and I saw him in the village yesterday. And I said, "Wow, are you still competing?" And he said, "No, I'm powerlifting now." So he's not racing anymore, but he's powerlifting. And you will get that happening on occasion. I don't think that's his real hair. I don't know. What
You never know. Those hairdressers have been busy at the village.
there's some serious. We're talking about science a little bit here. That's a serious genetic mutation, I guess. At that point, if he's grown the Irish flag.
Especially, he's had 4 years to cultivate it. So if you'd had the chance to do another Summer Games sport, what would it have been?
Oh, another summer game sport. Wow, I
If
don't
you
know.
could have picked another one.
You know, as a ski racer, which is really my primary sport, I think we all, as ski racers, think that we are tremendous basketball players, which really is not the case.
Right.
If you get a bunch of ski racers out on the court, it usually is a pretty ugly scene.
There'd be a bit of trash talking, I imagine.
Oh, there's definitely a bit of trash talking. Yes, the ego's writing checks that the body can't cash. But that would be a whole lot of fun, I think, to do it. And surprisingly enough, I will be doing some commentary for wheelchair basketball.
Sure.
Got Italy, which is a big contingent always, and certainly a strong team. They have 100, actually exactly 100 athletes
Oscar
coming
de
through.
Pellegrin is the archer who's the flag bearer for Italy.
And always very well dressed, the Italians.
Looking very sharp.
Yes. And they look sort of excited. They're kind of a passionate people, aren't they? Those
Absolutely.
Italians.
They're having a great time.
Oh. If they could only get excited about it, they'd be doing well, it looks like. Some
Few
messages
signs for
home.
Yep, that's right.
Which is
Commonwealth
amazing
Day.
because I felt like as an athlete that you represent your friends and your family as much as anybody when you're here, but you also represent a whole lot of people that you don't even know. People within your country and
I'm not laughing at you.
well, feel free to. That's totally fine if you'd like to. But
The tongues are out. They're having a great time.
Jamaica!
be interesting to see if Jamaica can duplicate some of the prowess that it had during the Olympic Games.
Absolutely.
Usain Bolt is still ubiquitous here, as are a lot of the Paralympic athletes. Athletes on the billboards. It's been really impressive just to see how visible those athletes are and how much the corporate groups have supported the Paralympics. Because that makes a huge difference. You see some of these images on the billboards, and it really changes some of your view of what it means about the sport. And I think it's part of the reason that they're selling so many tickets. So Japan coming through, and they have a big contingent, 165 athletes.
Japan should feature very prominently in the medals, well up the table.
They certainly do, and I remember some of the guys I competed against, some of the Japanese guys. They worked as hard, if not harder, than anybody I have ever seen. It was just absolutely amazing the amount of miles that they would put in. They're not going to be outworked, that's for sure. On the Japanese team, there'll be a lot of preparation, and we'll look to them for some great results. And it's a big team, 165 athletes.
It is.
The rising sun there. You might have been doing a little bit of a tribute to Usain Bolt there. I don't know.
All right.
Looked like there was the bow and arrow going. I don't know.
Keiichi Kimura, the swimmer, is the flag bearer for Japan for London 2012.
Jordan!
Jordan coming through here. Do you like how the women carrying the Brolys are wearing the same outfits? That just are the same colors.
It's just, yeah, the colours are matching the teams, aren't they?
Brings the whole team together. The
Bit chilly, I think,
representation.
for those dresses, but I've noticed that one of the women was wearing a denim jacket before to keep. I don't know if she'd forgotten to take it off, but good on her.
Kazakhstan!
And those dancers have not stopped
I know.
yet, have
I'm
they?
so impressed with them.
Wow, no, those are some interesting jackets, the Kazakhstan
are.
jackets. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really liking the Kazakhstan uniform. Might
Yeah.
try and get in there and swap with them.
Kenya!
It's great.
Kenya, which often features prominently on the track in the Olympics, does so here in the Paralympics as well.
Have they got a big team?
The
this year?
Kenyans have a team of 28 athletes, so
Right.
it's not a huge
No.
team, no.
Just seemed like there were quite a few. No.
You see the stadium starting to fill in. 4,200 athletes. Takes a while, even though this is moving really
Republic of
quickly.
Korea!
They are moving quickly, but
Takes a long
They need
time
to,
to get
don't they?
4,200 athletes in. Interesting sign of, solidarity in some ways there. The or union with the Korean carrying the Union Jack flag. So celebrating that we are here in London. We're happy to be here. As well as a whole lot of Korean flags.
I think she just did an M for Mo Farah.
Was it for Mo Farah?
Oh,
Really?
well, I don't know.
It might have been. Who
Could have
knows?
been. We saw the bolt earlier. Might have been part of the, here we are in your turf and we're looking to replicate the success.
You hope so, and that was Mo Farah was
Kuwait!
amazing.
So many people I've spoken to since I've been here have said that was their real highlight of the London Olympics, regardless of whether you're, a GB supporter or not.
Right.
It's such a delightful win. Well, 2 wins that he had.
2 wins, the
Yeah.
510K, yes. And you do see some of the traditional wear, which is, I think is one of the interesting parts of the opening ceremonies and of the games in general.
It just adds so much character, doesn't it?
It really does. And it is this idea of bringing countries together. And it changes it so much when it's a person that you know as opposed to a country that you've heard of or read about in the news.
Kyrgyzstan from
Personal.
Central Asia.
Lao People's Democratic Republic!
Latvia!
You see that everybody's wearing their credentials as well, or a lot of them are wearing their credentials, which pretty much is the only thing that gets you into
Absolutely.
places. There's a tremendous amount of security here, making sure that everything's going to be safe for all the athletes, for all the spectators.
No, there's certainly no getting anywhere, even if you are an athlete, no getting anywhere without your accreditation around your neck.
Exactly.
You get scanned pretty much everywhere you go, getting through checkpoints and
And it
having
might
your
take a
ID
little
checked.
bit more time, but it's a whole lot better than the alternative.
Look, I know competition hasn't started yet, but I must say that
Lebanon!
security that I've had to deal with so far has been quick, easy, and done with a smile too. Particularly the army guys, many of them obviously
They're
brought
great.
in to help out with the security, and they've just been so friendly and so lovely to deal with.
They really have. And
Big
you know
grins
what?
every morning.
they're early in the morning. They're
Yep,
doing
that's
long
right.
hours. So many of these
Absolutely.
volunteers, the army guys,
Lesotho!
the volunteers, the drivers, the people volunteering in the village. They're working ridiculously long hours, as have all the organizers, just to put on this event. But people are happy to be here. They're here for this 2 weeks, and for the previous 2 weeks, the Olympic 2 weeks. And the thing is, it resembles a lot of what the athletes do, where it's a lifetime of work for the hope of a moment of brilliance that you get here and hope that you can perform. And these guys have worked so hard just to get here, and they're willing to make it work. I'm sure they'll all be exhausted by the time the game's finished, but they'll be exhausted with a smile on their face too.
Libya.
Libya, another country that's had some recent difficulty, but it's nice to see the athletes coming and performing.
Abdulrahim Busanan is carrying the flag.
It's a team of 7 athletes.
Lithuania.
Rolandos Urbonas is the flag bearer for Lithuania.
They're a little bit more sedate than the Italians were, but those green jackets certainly aren't.
I'm liking the green jackets.
They're good, yeah. You
Don't mind
are
that at
slightly
all.
partial to green, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I must be tonight. No, that's right. They're kind of keeping a lid on it a bit more, aren't they?
But certainly nonetheless excited to be here.
Also got to remember that they've had to wait for an hour
That's
outside
true.
the stadium before they were allowed to walk in. So
And you've been in line for a long time
China.
at this point.
absolutely.
Madagascar.
Really is just an amazing number of countries that are competing. Stoke Mandeville back in 48 had 16 athletes. Go from 16 to 4,200 athletes.
Malaysia.
And now 166 countries that are represented.
Yeah, it is incredible. Imagine if they could have thought back then that this is what they were starting. If you could have had a glimpse into the future to know that it would multiply by so many. And I do wonder what the Paralympics and the Olympics, for that matter, will look like in another, 20 years' time. But I guess we've probably had, when the schedules are so tight now, that there's not going to be an exponential increase in the number of athletes competing. There will still be rises here and there, but the schedule is so packed, and they're often adding and taking out events to try and make it as fair as possible. But you can't just keep adding events.
You can't. No. I mean, it's only so big that the games can grow logistically. But at the same time, you are seeing more athletes, and you'll see a greater and greater depth of athletes, which I think is the big intention, to see that, to see the entertainment, to see the, to see the quality of the sport continue to grow, which I've certainly seen in the period of time. My first games were back in '92, and to see how it's progressed has been absolutely amazing, and to see it reach a variety of different places as well, where it's not just sort of your first world nations that are dominating, and they
much
will
more even
dominate to a
spread.
certain extent, but at the
Sure.
same time you will see some competitive, you'll see athletes from other places that are competitive as well. But it also changes. I mean, back in Stoke, back with Sir Ludwig Gutmann, it was about health. Because guys were basically rotting in their beds. I mean, rotting and dying in their beds. And that was just unacceptable to him. And you're seeing it on a variety of different levels, where you're seeing, at that point, it was about physical health, but now you're seeing it on cultural health. You're seeing this idea of being curious and going forward and seeing something that you might not necessarily see, seeing the human spirit in some ways.
Sure.
Or seeing the best of the human spirit.
What do you think the major changes have been since your first games in 1992? So we're going back a number of years now, I guess, but is the overall, I guess, the standard of performance, I mean, do you, in that period of time, do you notice a big difference between then and now?
You see the standard of performance. You see the gap getting smaller and smaller, where there were more outliers back then, but you see that gap getting smaller and smaller. You see the celebration getting bigger. A celebration like this, my first games, the opening ceremonies were not in a stadium.
Where did they have it?
They were outside. My first games were in Albertville, and it was basically alpine skiing and cross country skiing at that point, with biathlon as well. And we had probably, I'd be guessing, but it was probably about 400 athletes versus about 4,000 athletes, and so it was a much smaller group, and it didn't have the same kind of feel where you were reaching the casual fan. You were reaching friends and family. That was pretty much it. Those were the people who came by, and a bunch of school children that they brought up. But one of the big things that I'm seeing is the corporate involvement now.
Yeah.
Corporate involvement on the Olympic side, for the individual countries as well. We saw a whole lot more Paralympic athletes during the commercials for the Olympics in the U.S., which was great, because that's helping push the sport forward, helping with funding, but also helping to get that message out there. Those corporations have a much bigger voice than any one of us has as an individual. Mexico always has a great team. Raced against a bunch of the Mexican guys on the road and on the track, and some of them I passed, and some of them were still there. Wow, okay, you guys are still doing it. Makes me feel younger in some ways that they're still there. I've never seen these outfits from the Mexicans. They're
colours.
great. There we go, Jaime. There's the race against him.
He's still going.
He's still going.
Yeah.
Probably still going fast, too. It's kind of cool to get those shots of the crowd, too.
Absolutely.
And just see.
Yeah, officials from their respective countries. And Mexico must get the award for the most colourful contingent.
I think so. They're
far,
at least rivaling some of these African countries.
Absolutely.
135 athletes from Mexico. And dancers are still dancing.
Oh, it's amazing. Still on their feet.
Quite a sombrero there, too.
Republic of Moldova!
Happy to be here. 6 athletes from Moldova.
Mongolia!
And a pretty good contingent from Mongolia. 13 athletes from Mongolia. A lot of these countries you don't see except at a Paralympic Games. You might not even see a Mongolia at a World Championships, but you will see them at the Paralympic Games, and it's representative of the investment that these countries make in the Paralympics and how significant, how important it is to their athletes, but to their country as well. And like we were talking about with China, where these athletes can help create a transformation in the culture of that country.
Montenegro!
Yeah, and you do wonder, I guess, given that China hosted the Paralympics and Olympics just 4 years ago, whether some of that sort of enthusiasm and investment trickled across the border to Mongolia, and they started to invest a little more. And also, having proximity to China and perhaps access to facilities, or at least some good people to compete against at a regional level.
Or maybe even some of the television coverage.
True.
So you're getting to see it for the first time. Sport is an amazing bond for a lot of people. That when you're doing sport, whether able-bodied or disabled, you are doing the same thing. And I think that's where the Paralympics comes in. And it surprises people. I was I was talking to my driver this morning and telling him, some of the times that these guys were running. That some of the wheelchair athletes, where the world record for a marathon in a wheelchair is an hour and 18 minutes, which is pretty much 3-minute miles for 26.2 miles, which is, back in 1954, Roger Bannister was the first guy to break the 4-minute mile here. This is 3 minutes for. It forces people, puts it in a context that they can understand, and I think that it really changes a little bit of what they're seeing about disability, which I think is one of the themes that certainly Mr. Coe has stressed, that it is going to be a change. And each 4 years, it's an opportunity to create a change. It was an opportunity to create a change in Beijing. It's an opportunity to create a change here in London, and it's a different change.
And a lot of these athletes do, I should point out, do train alongside able-bodied athletes anyway. For example, Sue Powell, one of the track cyclists who's going to be competing tomorrow. She's from my home club, the Vikings, the Canberra Vikings. She's been racing against able-bodied athletes. Michael Milton, who was a very well-known downhill skier, then switched to cycling at a Paralympic level. He also trained with able-bodied athletes, and we're just part of the squad. It was no big deal. In fact, if anything, you make these great friendships, and then you think, oh, that's right, they're competing at the Paralympics. It doesn't really occur to you, I guess. They're just, everyone's one and the same. But we do wish...
competition, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do wish Sue all the very best for her track cycling qualification round, which is tomorrow morning.
And you're hitting on one of the fun parts of it too, that if you get to know some of the people, you really want to root for those people, and that's I think the entree into this, that watching some of these events, you get a chance to get to know some of these people and figure out who your person is, who your hometown person is, whether it's somebody in your country or not, whether the person is if they're showing up on the line, you're like, oh, well, I want to root for that guy. I like that guy.
Exciting.
Nepal!
William and Kate sitting there in the stands.
Netherlands!
So the Dutch come into it.
The distinctive orange is back again.
Yes,
It can't be missed.
I don't think they're going to leave that. They came into a restaurant the other night, and they were all in orange.
I always think it looks fantastic.
It's a great
They're
look.
so distinctive everywhere they go. And it was the Dutch in Beijing that hosted the biggest party of both the Olympics and Paralympic Games as well. They had their own pavilion. It wasn't at the Olympic Village. It was in the east of Beijing, and it was the place to go.
Oh, exactly. And you will never, ever mistake them.
It was a sea of orange shirts.
Great wheelchair tennis players. She looks like she missed the departure time.
She may have, or maybe she just didn't want to stand around, so she slipped into the stadium earlier and missed the marching.
New Zealand!
One of your neighbours down there.
Indeed, fierce rivalry we have with New Zealand, and see that came to the fore during the Olympics. We'll see what happens during the Paralympics.
Yes, definitely known for their rugby.
Absolutely.
And certainly known for their quad rugby as well.
Yes, fierce rivalry in rugby and netball as well, which of course does not feature at the Olympics or the Paralympics, but at the Commonwealth Games, netball is played.
Another country that's leaving winter, coming to summer.
That's right.
To come compete. Hoping that they'll get a lot of warm weather probably here in London.
Yeah, that's right. Although I guess temperatures here are similar to the winter temperatures in some parts of sort of southeastern Australia.
Like
really,
all of the athletes.
Which I think would be a bit more of a rude shock for the New Zealanders. They have more extreme temperatures than us.
Yes. Well, it's interesting. I remember leaving winter to go do the LA Marathon one year, and it was 80 degrees in the middle of March, and that was a bit of a shock to the system.
I can
so
imagine.
it really can be a shock. not just that long plane ride, but just different temperatures, different climate. We're making our way through.
Nigeria!
Still have a few more countries to go.
We do, but we're a bit over halfway through.
Oh yes, most
Yep.
definitely. Nigerians
I
are
do
certainly having
feel
a good
for these
time.
athletes who've had to be waiting outside the stadium on a chilly night, wanting to get inside for the party, but having to wait their turn.
It's true. It's a long procession. It is, but it's a worthwhile procession.
Alexander Wang Hansen, the sailor, is the flag bearer for Norway.
There's so much that goes into preparing this stadium for the opening ceremonies.
Pakistan!
Palestine!
I was just reading that the women sort of heading each country, they're carrying the umbrella, which of course has been the recurrent theme, but those dresses they're wearing have been finished with aerosol spray, which is why those colours are so vivid.
Right, exactly.
The umbrella's continuing to be a feature, and of course we can't forget that big umbrella right in the centre. We're going
No.
to see what's going to happen to that very shortly.
Papua New Guinea!
As we make our way through to the P's, Papua New Guinea, Francis Compound from athletics is the flag bearer for PNG.
And there's no less excitement. They might have been waiting a while to come out here, but there's no less excitement, that's
Absolutely.
for sure.
If anything, it's more impressive because they've had so much patience.
Oh, it is. Now it looks wonderful to see all of these athletes, and it's each time they come through, and there's certainly no less excitement for the
No,
people
it's
in the
great.
stands. Each time a new country comes through, there's that moment of anticipation, and they're probably trying to work out, well, what's the next country in the alphabetical order here? And then they announce it.
Philippines!
Philippines.
Josephine Medina, table tennis player, she just walked across our screen as the flag bearer for the Philippines.
Poland!
Uh-oh. They got a little offline and coming in there from Poland, but they, big team.
They made it in.
Certainly a big team from Poland. 140 athletes. Always been a strong Paralympic team. I like those outfits too. See, some of the countries are not exactly uniform, and some of them are pretty darn near uniform. Looking almost exactly the same. Everybody's wearing the same thing. And as an athlete, it's that moment of anticipation too, when you go to get your uniforms, wondering what they're going to look like.
And whether they're going to fit properly, I guess, as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure it's different between different countries, but...
We should remind people that if they want to get in touch with us at all, they can do so through our Facebook Paralympic Games page. It's nice to know people around the world are watching our coverage,
Right.
wherever they may be.
And hopefully they are watching the coverage, because it'll be great coverage, great way to see the sports. This is a nice kickoff.
It is. It's great. But then the games proper begin first thing tomorrow morning, and we've got plenty of sports that we'll be covering. You can stream online, and you can also watch video on demand as well.
Puerto Rico.
So if you missed something then you really wanted to see it, you can always find it on the website, paralympicsport.tv, or just go to the main Paralympics website, paralympics.org, and follow the links to Paralympic Sport TV.
The white suits, Puerto Rico.
It's ambitious.
That's ambitious and sharp looking.
Looks sharp. I wouldn't have kept it clean for this long, I don't think.
That's often my biggest problem as well.
Guitar.
Yeah. Now they might be dealing with a little bit different temperature change than the Aussies or the Kiwis.
Yeah, that's true. Very hot in the middle of summer.
Coming from about 120 degrees or something like that.
Absolutely.
Need to train early in the morning or late at night or indoors.
Armenia. Karel Edward Novak, a cyclist, is the Romanian flag bearer.
The Russians, as we know, will be hosting the next Winter Games in Sochi in 2014. And the Russians have a big contingent here. You can see that they have 289 athletes.
Well, that's one of the biggest teams then. That makes them
One of the
almost the biggest.
One of the biggest teams in there with the Canadians and the Aussies and a variety of those teams. Be interesting to see. Sochi 2014, a couple of the Russians I used to race against, a couple of the Russians who also were Nordic skiers. They were doing both winter and summer sports. They'll have some excitement, but you see these countries that are making an investment in their future in the upcoming future and near future when they're going to host the games.
Has Sochi, to your knowledge, hosted many of the top level competitions before? Or?
They hadn't prior to this. A lot of the venues are getting their first look.
Sochi's essentially a resort town, isn't it?
It's a resort town, and I guess it even has some palm trees in it.
Rwanda.
I'm not sure if that's right or not, but I remember reading that somewhere. And so it's kind of an interesting place to be hosting the Winter Games. Now these might be the most unique of the uniforms that we've seen thus far. From Rwanda.
Yep. It's between them and the Mexicans, I think, for the most creative.
Well, Mexicans had a whole lot more variety.
Yeah, so much
in
colour.
theirs.
But these are certainly distinctive. Nobody
most
else
definitely
looks like
No, this is the
Rwanda.
most unique. You can see people documenting Samoa. 6 athletes from Samoa. it's a little bit of a difference when you're a small country versus a big country, where some of the big countries, it's almost like you can get lost in the crowd of the big country, where as 6 people, you think, I'm excited to be here, but wow, everybody's looking at me.
That's right. I guess you either relish it or you hate being the center of attention.
Exactly. San Marino coming in here.
Particularly if it was your first games, or you're just not used to seeing crowds this absolutely huge. So,
well, you understand competing in front of a crowd.
Saudi Arabia!
But that's actually doing something. Whereas this, you're just coming in and you're celebrating the moment, but at the same time, people are just looking at you. And you go, wow, okay, this is Saudi Arabia coming in.
Senegal!
Well, Senegal's looking pretty good too.
They do look very good.
That looks great.
They really do.
Got the yellow shoes to match.
Yeah, they're bringing the whole ensemble together.
Serbia!
Serbia has 23 athletes. Pretty good representation. You see that they have Serbia written in their native language, and then out front on the umbrella they have it written in English.
Sierra Leone!
Mohamed Kamara is the flag bearer for Sierra Leone.
I like those jackets. Those are good looking.
Very sharp.
Yeah.
Jeans. Haven't seen that.
No.
Singapore!
Oh, the big smiles say it all, don't they? It's fantastic.
They do. Yeah, they're happy to be here. 18 athletes from Singapore.
Slovakia!
Big team from Slovakia, 64 athletes, proudly waving the flag. They look like they're ready to go right now, don't they?
They do.
This is a lot of their introduction to London, but time to go to work tomorrow.
Do you think it's easier getting straight into competition in the first couple of days, or is it better to have a couple of days off? You know how the scheduling works out. Some athletes don't compete tomorrow, of course. They might not compete until the weekend or even next week sometime, so they've got to wait.
I could
Is
only
it better to just
speculate.
get straight into it? Do you think?
I can only speculate because I've always competed in athletics. I competed in at least 4 events, 100, 200, 400, and 800, and then often the relays as well. So it seemed like I was competing every day, and that's all I've ever known. So it's hard to really speculate on what it would be like to get here and not be able to do it, or not be able to start right away. But I think you do. There's a bit of a team dynamic as well, that you can watch your teammates, and you see people who are successful, and you think, okay, well, I can be successful, and you can sort of gain a little bit from their experience. So that might be helpful, but I'm sure it's different for every person. It really is.
South Africa!
South Africa, probably one of the most celebrated athletes, who's carrying the flag right there, Oscar Pistorius. We saw a lot of him in the Olympics. He was the Blade Runner, running the 400 meters in the Olympics, made the semifinals of the 400. We'll see a lot more of him, and I think one of the cool things is we'll see a lot more of him, but we'll see some competition for Oscar.
And that's what he's been saying very much in the last sort of day or two. He's been doing a number of media interviews, and he's really at pains to point out that this is not an easy ride for him. In fact, he's expecting to be challenged more than ever, because I guess in a way you become the hunted, don't you?
Oh,
when
he's
you've got a reputation.
bullseye on him right now.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been racing against able-bodied athletes. He's now one of the most recognisable athletes in the world, of
In the
any
world,
sport, any
exactly.
discipline.
And he's done a tremendous amount for the Paralympics. He's shined a great light on, and what the beauty is that he competed in the Olympics, and now he's back competing in the Paralympics. He's not saying this is some sort of second-rate thing. This is something to be celebrated, and he will have some competition. You can see the Spanish are relatively excited to be here.
They are loving it. But I mean, Spain is just such a sporting nation, aren't they? They're
Oh, they
extraordinary.
really are.
They've produced fantastic footballers, fantastic tennis
Oh.
players, fantastic athletes at the Olympic and Paralympic level.
They certainly have.
They're just so excited.
They're all getting their moment in front of the camera as well. 215 athletes from Spain. They'll be a strong team
Absolutely.
here in the Paralympics. And they're still coming.
Wow, they are. Of course, Paralympic Sport TV has Spanish commentary as well that you can access through our website.
They might have been in the parking lot for a long time waiting for their turn
I
to come
think
in,
so.
but they certainly didn't get sleepy while they were out
No.
there.
Get the feeling they were probably out there dancing or
They
you know,
probably were the whole
having
time.
a great time.
There's something about football. I can't read the far
No,
side
I
of that
couldn't read
sign.
the second word either. Football solar.
Now you have to interpret that
I
for us,
know.
right? Is that how that works? Spanish team still coming in.
Sri
We have a
Lanka.
couple of wigs going on. Now we're going into Sri Lanka. Go from one of the biggest to one of the smaller. So from 215 down to 8 teams, 8 people on the Sri Lankan team.
Suriname.
Suriname coming in. Really is impressive. Just how many countries we have here. And this is a component of the opening ceremonies. We have the athlete procession, which is one of the big parts of the games as we see Sweden coming in. But at the same time, it's not the whole of the opening ceremonies. There will be an entertainment component of it. There will be a whole lot of fun as well. So the traditional blue and gold of the Swedes.
Yes, that's right. This is sort of, I guess, the middle section. Then after this, we will continue the story of Miranda, the central character, and her journey of enlightenment.
Yeah. So one of the DJs, Goldilocks there. Got to get 3 DJs that are keeping it entertaining for all of us as these guys are coming in. The Swiss coming in. You see that cross on the umbrella woman's skirt. I guess that'd be a dress, wouldn't it? Swiss are always looking sharp.
They
Have
do.
some tremendous athletes. There's Heinz Fry there, one of the best wheelchair athletes I've ever seen in my life. The guy's amazing. He's got to be up to 12, 14 Paralympic games. It's something
extraordinary.
absolutely ridiculous. And
It's pretty amazing, isn't it, when you think of the training load
Syrian Arab Republic.
and how he's been able to stay at the top.
well, injury-free. It's such a balance, isn't it, between training, overtraining, hurting yourself, being out for, however long, and then thinking it's all too hard. But
it's
longevity
absolutely
is
incredible.
just to be respected, isn't it?
It really is. No doubt about it. So the Syrian Arab Republic. 11 athletes.
Chinese Taipei.
There is some sign going on there on his hands, and I can't tell what it is, and I bet I probably can't read
Might
it
not be
either.
able to read it.
There are a lot of countries, but they are coming in quickly. It's amazing just how quickly they've been able to get these countries in, get the athletes seated, and get ready for the start of the entertainment part. Tajikistan?
United Republic of Tanzania.
A bit of a soft spot for Tanzania, having been to Mount Kilimanjaro, so in Tanzania. Great to see these guys. I haven't met any of these guys yet, but maybe in due time I'll get a chance to do that. That's one of the cool parts about being here, is that you get to meet some people from some of these places that you've met, or some of these places that you've been. Thailand I always thought was kind of an interesting country. We saw it on the racing side, where all of a sudden the Thai racers showed up, and they were going really, really fast. They've got some tremendous wheelchair racers. They have in the past, and it'll be interesting to see who they have now. We see another of the DJs. That's Goldilocks there. Not that guy, but the former DJ.
Timor-Leste.
Timor-Leste into the stadium now. Certainly are getting through these countries pretty quickly.
Tonga.
Tonga, 3 athletes from Tonga. Excitement really is building. This is the kickoff. The opening ceremonies are here as a kickoff of the games. Competition starts tomorrow. It will be fast and furious.
Tobago.
An island nation of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, I guess, athletes put on themselves, because although you do have world championships, I mean, this is it, isn't it? This is the big one.
This is the big one. This is the big one, and this is the one that's part of history.
Tunisia.
It really is. Each individual athlete's part of history. If you have a good 2 weeks, a lot of ways you can build that 2 weeks into a career.
Sure.
It makes for a good career. Got
And
Tunisia
also in
coming
terms of the exposure as well that you get out of the games like this, as opposed to, say, a World Championships. I mean, the scale of the games now, as we've seen, we were talking about Beijing earlier, where it almost just exploded in popularity in China, and here we are looking at sell-out venues. And so if you do well in these 2 weeks, people will know who you are, won't they? Leads to
People
more
will.
opportunities.
Yeah, it's exactly it. People notice right now. The world is watching more and more, and certainly as athletes, they hope that the world continues to watch more and more, and that it could get onto a par with the Olympics as far as the exposure is concerned. But it's growing, and it's growing each time.
Turkey.
Gizem Girisman, the archer, is Turkey's flag bearer this evening. Big
contingent from Turkey, 111 athletes. It's There's countries that you might not expect to have as big a group. And it looks like the vast majority of them have all shown up for tonight.
Absolutely.
And this might be one of the greatest moments that you have in the games. Some athletes are going to be on the top step of the podium. Some athletes aren't going to be on the vast majority are not.
There's just not enough room.
There is
really
not enough
isn't.
room.
And when you think about, I mean, really, that's why winning a medal of any colour is just so precious, because it's very hard to do.
Very hard to earn a medal of any color, but also it's hard to get here.
Yep.
Earning your way into this venue is something that is really impressive, and this might be the greatest moment. This is the realization of goals for some people. Certainly not saying that that's the case for the people from Turkey, but for a lot of the athletes that are in this stadium, this is the crowning moment, is getting here and getting to compete.
So when you competed, was the goal very much, I want a medal? Was that the single-mindedness, or was it, I mean, do you look at it a different way? I mean, how do you kind of approach it when you want to succeed? Do you look at doing your personal best, or would just think, I just want to beat everyone?
You know, the overall goal was to win, but it's hard to make that a real goal. You know, as you're there at the starting line, to try to think, my goal is to win, because it's almost something that you can't really understand, and you can't affect what somebody else is going to do. You can only affect what you're going to do. So the goal was always to have your best possible performance, and hope that your best possible performance was the thing that would allow you to win. Funny enough that after retiring, I think I missed the training more than I missed the competition, the lifestyle of being an athlete, and certainly the training at the beginning of the year, where you can really affect a change. So it is the journey in some ways. So Uganda coming in here.
Dancers still got plenty of energy. It's impressive.
The dancers have been preparing for this moment for a long time too,
it's
right?
a fair bit of fitness that goes into it. They've been on their feet for about an hour and a half, dancing the whole time.
They have. They might feel it tomorrow.
And you're on TV, so you can't really stop.
No, Ukraine has 225 athletes. It's a big team.
I find that surprising. I thought they would have a sizable team, but that many, it's impressive.
That's a big number of people. See it filling in. There's still some blank spots there.
Yep.
Preparing for some big teams still yet to come.
Absolutely. The biggest, or one of the biggest,
One
I
of
should
the
say.
biggest. The Chinese
United
are the biggest.
Arab Emirates.
So the UAE, as we get through these countries, Mohammed Khamis Khalaf, powerlifter, is the flag bearer for the United Arab Emirates.
United States of America.
So the United States,
The United
big
States
team.
is coming in. It's a big team. 340 athletes on the U.S. team. Certainly one of the teams that will be in the medal running, along with China, Great Britain. Ukraine might be one of those teams that's in there as well. Traditionally one of the strongest teams, and will be strong over a variety of different events and different competitions. There we go. That is quite a beard going on there. A celebration.
They've gone the classic look though, haven't they?
They have gone the classic look.
Uruguay.
It's Scott Danberg carrying the flag for the U.S. He's been around forever. Uruguay coming through.
Gonzalo Dutra, the swimmer, carrying the flag for Uruguay.
A lot of excitement there. And we go from one of the bigger teams again to one of the smaller teams.
That's right.
340 on the U.S. team down to 4 for Uruguay.
It'd be a strange feeling, wouldn't it?
US
Being
Virgin
next to such a big
Islands.
team and knowing there were so few of you.
Right.
But maybe inspiring as well and exciting to sort of
Makes the
piggyback off the
logistics
back.
a little bit easier of traveling, that's for sure. You don't have
absolutely.
340 athletes and a bunch of
Not
trainers.
such a big roll call, is it, to make sure everyone's there for the opening ceremony?
Yeah, exactly. You can go with the buddy system on that one. Uzbekistan coming in now. We're quickly nearing the end of the athlete procession. Just a few teams left, and one that I think
Uzbekistan.
the crowd might be waiting for in particular.
So still a lot to come in this opening ceremony. A lot more highlights as we continue the
Vanuatu.
journey of Miranda, the central character, as Vanuatu enters the stadium. Marcel Husamoli, the flag bearer for Vanuatu.
Venezuela.
Venezuela's a big contingent, 60 athletes on the Venezuelan team.
Another team that's chosen the classic white.
Classic white, yes. Summer whites.
That's right.
As a guy in a wheelchair, you want to keep the summer whites out of the wheels.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, it's pretty easy to end up with a gray stripe
I can imagine.
right on the side.
Particularly after all the rain we've had today as well. They've got the
Exactly.
added, flick up of
That is for
Grit.
sure. So Vietnam coming through with 18 athletes. You'd notice a scarf there. It is a little bit chilly.
Fair enough. Yep.
It is a little bit chilly.
Can completely understand that.
You can see it's still rocking out here. The VJs are
Zambia!
keeping them going. The penultimate team here is Zambia. 9 athletes. They might have been waiting almost the longest, but they certainly do not look like they are cold or tired or anything. They are ready to be here.
That's Lasem Katongo
Zimbabwe!
on our screen, the flag bearer. Now we've got Zimbabwe.
I misspoke.
Almost there.
I misspoke.
Almost
There was
there.
one on the next page, and I didn't realize it. Zimbabwe coming through. 5 athletes from Zimbabwe. Looks like they're all there. This might be some cold conditions for people from Zimbabwe.
Absolutely.
There seems to be a little anticipation
Can't
coming
imagine
on
what
here.
that could possibly be
Please give
for.
a huge welcome to Paralympics GB!
Here they come. Everyone's been waiting for Team GB.
Philip Craven clapping for his countrymen. Former wheelchair basketball player in the Paralympics himself, now the president of the International Paralympic Committee. David Bowie for the Team GB, huh?
Happy birthday, Millie. That's what that sign said, in case anyone was wondering.
William and Kate cheering them on.
Princess Anne getting into the spirit of the flag.
Looks like they've already added the gold to their uniforms.
Wow, very
on the
disco,
GB
isn't
team.
it?
Yes.
Very disco.
Making a bold statement with the gold, I believe.
I think so.
A lot of Union Jack on the wheels of the wheelchair athletes there. Confetti. I guarantee all of this will be cleaned up by tomorrow. It'll be absolutely amazing what the workers do between now and then.
It's a
The place
huge
will be
job,
spotless.
isn't it, tonight?
It's a gigantic job. And it seems thankless in a lot of ways until you see the people who are doing the job, and they're so excited to do this job because they are a part of the second biggest sporting event of the year. The
And
Paralympics.
it really is just about being part of something bigger than yourself
It really
and your
is.
own country.
Yep.
And your own, your own region.
It really is. And it's amazing just how excited people are and how much of a smile they have on their face when they're working ridiculous hours and when they're doing a really difficult job, but how much they enjoy it and how much that affects the enjoyment of every person who comes in contact with them, whether it's athletes or spectators. It's a tremendous 2 weeks, it really is. It's a celebration. GB is doing their lap. This must be the realization of a really big goal for Mayor Johnson there. As
Absolutely.
he's clapping along thinking, wow, we're here. We're here. We've done it. We've made it. We made it to the Olympics. And
Yeah, we hosted a fantastic games, and now here we are, ready to host another fantastic games.
a lot of people were saying that one of the comments that came out after the Olympics was that they said, thanks for the warm-up.
Yep.
Now we have the
Absolutely.
Paralympics coming, which is absolutely wonderful for the Paralympians to be on the greatest stage and not sharing the greatest stage with anybody else.
Yep.
And Team GB are the biggest rock stars in the place right now. And you really feel that. You feel how excited the people are for you to succeed.
Prime Minister David Cameron on his feet.
And impressive to see just who's attending as
It
well.
is,
There's
isn't it?
62,000 people.
Dignitaries from all over the world. I saw our Australian Governor General, Quinton Bryce, in the crowd just before, but she's just obviously one of many dignitaries who've made the trip to London for the Paralympics as well.
And the first time that the monarch has presided over both the Olympics and the Paralympics, but there are a whole lot of others who are here as well. The excitement really is just building right now.
Yes, even the atmosphere today at the Olympic Park was quite extraordinary. Just this afternoon as the opening ceremony got closer and closer, and people turned up very early, I must say. People here are so organised, aren't they?
Oh.
By 6 o'clock, people were streaming through the gates, even though it didn't start until 8:30.
And those who have tickets are so excited. And some of those who didn't have tickets were scrambling
Really disappointed.
to try to find a way. They were disappointed and trying to scramble to see how they might be able to get in on this because it is a moment in history. It's a significant moment, and for the Paralympic movement, it's a moment of change. It's a moment of finding a new level. These athletes are going to continue to push it forward, obviously, with the help of the administrators, the coaches, the leaders of the movement as well. But it's incumbent upon each individual to continue to move this forward. And there's so much that sport, it makes a comment about sport, but it makes a comment about society in general. And I think that the Paralympics will do exactly that. And people will see some of these athletes differently, but then they'll see the person on the street a little bit differently as well.
Yes, because I guess, like it or not, you do become an ambassador for your sport, don't you? Even though all you might want to do is compete and go and represent, your country at the highest level, but a byproduct of that is that you do become an ambassador, don't you?
You most definitely are an ambassador, and that's something that they will appreciate more and more as they go forward, because you think your job is to compete and train, and you want to keep it as simple as that, but our time on this earth, our time in sport is fleeting. Both of them are fleeting. And can we make a little impression, push something forward just a little bit? And these athletes will definitely be able to do that. And that part of being an ambassador, and being an ambassador for a sport that needs to be pushed forward. You're not part of an established, it's established to a certain extent, but it's also, there's a long way left for the Paralympics to go. And it's incumbent upon each individual to push that forward. That to me is the cool part, because you see the passion for the sport, not just for their individual performance.
So Team GB almost finishing their lap of the stadium, so they'll take their places, and then of course we'll continue the celebrations of the opening ceremony and have some formal addresses, or I should say official addresses as well, as part of this welcome.
This is an opportunity to take their victory lap at the beginning as well. Get this victory lap with 62,000 people in the audience. It's a tremendous feeling. It's not often in your life that you get 62,000 people clapping for you, and it feels like it's for you. It's for all the athletes, but at the same time, when you come in, it feels really, really personal. I think there are a lot of heroes in this stadium right now that a lot of the audience is looking at it going, yeah, those are heroes, and there'll be a lot more hero impressions made as the weeks go on, in the next 2 weeks with the performance. cleanup is starting already.
Absolutely. No time to waste.
Get ahead of it.
That's right. It's a tight schedule.
There'll be a packed stadium tomorrow for some of the track and field events.
Ladies and gentlemen, the athletes of the London 2012 Paralympic Games.
Please welcome soprano Denise Lee and signer Deepa Shastri, presenting the world premiere of Erilyn Wallen's Spirit in Motion, which is dedicated to the athletes of the London 2012 Paralympic Games.
Take my hand.
So that was soprano Denise Lee singing the athlete tribute song Spirit in Motion, which is, of course, the motto of the Paralympic movement.
Of the London Organising Committee of the Olympic and Paralympic Games, Sebastian Coe. And the President of the International Paralympic Committee, Sir Philip Craven.
Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, Sir Philip Craven, President of the International Paralympic Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, on behalf of every Briton and every lover of sport, it is my great honour to say, welcome home to the Paralympic Games. The movement that has led us here to this exhilarating moment, to these incredible games, began here in Britain on the day London opened the 1948 Olympic Games. For that day saw not only the Olympic opening ceremony at Wembley, but also 35 miles away at Stoke Mandeville, an archery demonstration for paraplegics. And it was this vision that launched Ludwig Guttmann's great venture. It was this that launched the Paralympic Games. So we say welcome home to this great sporting celebration. Welcome home to a movement that shows what sport is all about. Sport is about what you can do, what you can achieve, the limits you can reach, the barriers you can break. Sport shows what is possible. Sport refuses to take no for an answer. And everything sport stands for, we're going to see right here, right now. Everything sport stands for, we're going to experience with these Paralympic Games. From the moment London began its bid to host the Games in 2012, we determined that we would raise the bar, not just for the Olympic Games, but for the Paralympics too. The London 2012 would be the next great advance for the movement. That London 2012 would be a landmark for people with disability everywhere, a landmark in the progress of mankind towards light, towards seeing immense capability and possibility. And now we are ready. Now the stadiums are ready. Now the people of Britain are ready. Now the athletes are ready. And to those athletes I say, you will hear us. The enthusiasm for these Paralympics is extraordinary. The crowds will be unprecedented. These will be games to remember. And to my fellow countrymen and the millions watching around the world, I add these final words. Prepare to be inspired. Prepared to be dazzled, prepared to be moved by the Paralympic Games of London 2012. It now gives me immense pleasure to introduce Sir Philip Craven, President of the International Paralympic Committee.
Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, athletes and officials, distinguished guests, Paralympic sports fans from all over the world, good evening and welcome to the start of the biggest Paralympic Games ever. Tonight is a celebration of the development of the human spirit, a celebration of the Paralympic movement coming home, and a celebration of dreams becoming reality. As we embark on the Games, we do so knowing that what happens here has the energy to change each and every one of us. Sir Ludwig Guttmann started this magical journey when he developed and then perfected the revolutionary practice of using sport in the rehabilitation of spinal cord injury patients. In 1948, he organized the Stoke Mandeville Games on a small piece of land sandwiched between the back of a hospital and a railway embankment. It was here Sir Ludwig and his colleagues Joan Scruton and Charlie Atkinson, and athletes such as Dick Thompson, Ginger Swindlest and Margaret Maughan set the foundations for the Paralympic movement and generated the first sparks that became the Paralympic spirit. Through human sporting endeavor, that spirit is stronger than ever today, and we are eternally grateful to Sir Ludwig for his remarkable vision. But tonight is not just about his vision becoming reality. Around 10 years ago, a group of people had a dream to bring the Games to London. Their vision was to transform East London and inspire a generation. Backed by tremendous public support, national governments and local authorities, and thousands of amazing Games makers, and the people of this great city of London Seb Coe's 2012 team delivered an Olympic Games that exceeded everyone's wildest dreams. Tonight, I am delighted that we are joined by IOC President Jacques Rogge and his wife Anne. This country has an insatiable appetite for sport. London 2012 has done a tremendous job in making everyone feel that these are their Games. Imagine my pride when I discovered that the Paralympic mascot Mandeville had been handcrafted by a retired steelworker from my hometown of Bolton. Yeah. Tonight is the start of something extremely special. Tonight is about welcoming the world to a global Games, an event where we will experience every single emotion, including ones we never thought possible. I would like to thank all the international sports federations for their hard work in organising qualifying competitions, and would like to welcome them all to London together with their respective technical officials and classifiers. Welcome also to the record 164 national Paralympic committees who have brought with them the best prepared athletes ever. Most importantly, welcome to you, over 4,200 Paralympians. You have before you some of the finest sporting stages upon which to perform. Every step of the way you will be cheered on by the most passionate sports fans that you will have ever seen or heard. Your performances will inspire and excite the world. You will not just inspire a generation here, but many generations to come. With record ticket sales, media and broadcasters, your stories and performances will challenge the way people think about themselves and how they think about others. You are all catalysts for change and role models for an inclusive society. I ask you to abide by the rules and show the world exactly why you are all proud Paralympians. You are the reason why millions will fill the venues whilst billions watch on TV. You are here to continue the journey started by Sir Ludwig Guttmann and write the next chapter in the history of the Paralympic movement. You not only have the abilities to win medals in London, but you have the abilities to change the world. You will deliver sport like never before. I wish you all the very best of luck, and remember, make sure you have fun. It is now my honor and great pleasure to invite Her Majesty the Queen to declare open the London 2012 Paralympic Games.
I declare open the London 2012 Paralympic Games.
With that, they are open.
They are open indeed. And what an inspiring speech from Sir Philip Craven.
He does a tremendous job, and obviously he's a Paralympian.
Absolutely.
And he's British.
Yep. And just conveying that story of how it all started at the back of the hospital, between a small piece of land between that and a railway embankment, to where it is today. It's just extraordinary.
It really is, and as an athlete, I know that I've competed at Stoke, and for a lot of athletes, it's a
flag,
rite of passage.
Carried by 8 members of the Great Britain Under-22s wheelchair basketball team.
Harkening back to some of what you saw in the Olympics, where there is this connection to Stoke Mandeville, where it started, but also to the future as well. So the Under-22 basketball team, the people who carry that legacy forward, and you hope generationally that each group improves on that which the group before had done.
For a young athlete, there'd be nothing more inspiring and motivating than having a job like this to do.
Oh yes, and exactly what you think is, I want to get back here. It's been nice to get a little taste, but I want to be back here. And I want to be part of it. And a lot of responsibility as well, and I think that that's what a lot of the athletes see too, is that you're carrying the Paralympic flag. You're carrying a Paralympic legacy. You're carrying something that a lot of people have worked really very, very hard for. And you better do it well. Now, with basketball as a bit of a theme, you might have seen when Sir Philip and Sebastian Coe were making their speeches that there were actually some wheelchair and prosthetic parts on the podiums. That was an England wheelchair basketball player named Tony Heaton, who's a sculptor who did those sculptures, and they were representing a stylized map of the British Isles, formed from parts of sport wheelchairs and Paralympic runners' blades. Subtle little touches that bring together a lot of what people feel, and we're seeing some art right now which is a representation of a lot of the same kind of movement, and a lot of these athletes are doing that performance on the field of play.
As the Under-22s basketball team makes its way around, there's 8 members: Billy Bridge, Harry Brown, Emmanuel Filson, James McSorley, Philip Pratt, Richard Sargent, Greg Warburton and Joseph Williams, making that journey carrying the Paralympic flag. Where they'll take it to a team of Navy, Army and Air Force personnel to raise that flag. Part of the ceremony to get these games well and truly underway.
And a bit of a relay representing some of the teamwork as well, right? That we have members of the Royal Navy, Army, and Air Force personnel raising the flag. Naval Seaman Liz Moore, Lance Corporal Pilo, Corporal Penman.
It's just extraordinary the amount of work that goes into this, from the, you know, the dancing to the just coordinating the athletes all to get in, but then just all the smaller parts that make up such an important ceremony.
The coordination, the choreography, there's so much that goes into this. It really is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, as is customary for those who can, please stand for the Paralympic anthem.
To take the Paralympic oath on behalf of all athletes, Paralympic gold medalist, swimmer Liz Johnson.
In the name of all the competitors, I promise that we shall take part in these Paralympic Games, respecting and abiding by the rules which govern them, committing ourselves to a sport without doping and without drugs, in the true spirit of sportsmanship, for the glory of sport and the honour of our teams.
To take the Paralympic oath on behalf of all judges, wheelchair rugby technical delegate and judge Richard Allcroft.
In the name of all the judges and officials, I promise that we shall officiate in these Paralympic Games with complete impartiality, respecting and abiding by the rules which govern them, in the true spirit of sportsmanship.
To take the Paralympic oath on behalf of all coaches, GB Para Equestrian Dressage Team Leader David Hunter.
In the name of all coaches and other members of the athlete's entourage, I promise that we shall commit ourselves to ensuring that the spirit of sportsmanship and fair play is fully adhered to and upheld in accordance with the fundamental principles of the Paralympic movement.
Representative a bit of the evolution, because back in 1964 was the first time that an athlete took the oath. A coach has taken the oath since 1980, and this is, an official has taken it since 1980, and this is the first time that a coach has taken the oath.
It's all encompassing.
It really is.
And now we're poised for the return of Miranda, the central character for this opening ceremony, now that the official business
Miranda,
is out of the way.
books are the engines of change, windows on the world, lighthouses erected in the sea of time. They are companions, teachers, magicians, guardians of the treasures of the mind. Books are humanity in print.
So the twin themes of the ceremony, reason and rights, bringing these together through images of learning and empowerment. The soprano Ellen Manahan Thomas performing Handel's Eternal Source of Light Divine. stunning performance by soprano Ellen Manahan-Thomas of the Eternal Source of Light Divine. And those 6 Paralympians have flown towards what's being called a celestial sphere.
Wonder, how many goodly creatures are there here? How beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world that has such people in it.
Miranda, look to the light. Look.
And here we have Miranda embarking on her voyage of discovery.
And discover new worlds.
There ought to be something very special about the boundary conditions of the universe. And what can be more special than that there is no boundary? And there should be no boundary to human endeavor.
So Miranda encounters a flock of seagulls and a whale along her journey. And a model of the solar system. Here we have 370 volunteer performers pouring into the stadium. That big book representing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Chris, the dancer we can see on screen at the moment is Zia Azazi, a contemporary dancer.
It's amazing to see, and certainly back to the umbrella as well, which has been ubiquitous.
This is called dervish turning. Described as a method for experiencing inner stillness and an opening of the heart.
It's interesting. When I read that, I thought that's not been the way that I've heard it. Sort of dancing like a whirling dervish. I'd always assumed it was something that wasn't an inner stillness, and so it's really interesting that sometimes our perception can be so far from the intention. Again, one of those things that gives us this thought of, well, this is what you think something is, but it's something else. See the dancers on those sway poles as well.
Yeah, amazing.
One of those dancers was an amputee as well. Certainly a lot of dancers with disabilities here as well.
I've got my heart here in my hands. I've got my heart here in my hands now. And I've been searching for my wings. I've been searching for my wings sometime. And I'm gonna be born. I'm gonna be born into soon the sky. I'm gonna be born into soon the sky. To soon the sky. To soon the sky. 'Cause I'm a bad girl, and the bad girls go to heaven. I'm a bad girl, and the bad girls can fly. Bad girls can fly.
Well, it's hard to believe she's only 16 years of age.
It really is. She's spectacular.
Stage name is Birdie. Her real name is Jasmine van den Bergeerd. And the dancer you saw was David Toole, with such an impressive performance.
Yeah, they both were, that's for sure.
Oh, it's amazing. Very touching. As we move on to the next phase of this opening ceremony.
We're setting up for something exciting at this point.
We are. So we're looking at Sir Isaac Newton's discoveries about gravity and his 3 laws of motion, which is, of course, again back into that theme of thinking outside the square and thinking past what you currently think is possible.
And also taking something small and moving it into something far greater, to a general sense where he was looking at this apple falling in his garden and saw it as these binding laws for the universe as a whole. And Stephen King is taking that one step further to say that gravity is that thing that could suck us into a black hole from which we may never emerge. It might be by way of warning as well.
When Isaac Newton saw an apple fall to the ground, he suddenly realized that it must be the same force that holds together the beautiful system of the sun, the planets, and the comets. This gravity is the same force that can draw us into a black hole, never to return.
Miranda, immerse yourself in the wonders of science and the universe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please get your apples ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fight!
That was 62,000 people all biting an apple at the same time. Not the same apple.
That would have had to have been a big apple. No, everyone was given an apple on their way in tonight and told that they should save it to bite at that particular moment.
So in theory, it was all 62 at the same time.
In theory. In practice, not so sure. But
it was a pretty
cool.
impressive sound,
Yeah,
that's for
it
sure.
was.
No doubt
A little bit of
about it.
amplification there, but that's all right.
Miranda's enjoying her apple.
She's worked up an appetite.
She's now in a maze of books. This is in a formal 17th century garden, which is where Sir Isaac Newton realized his 3 laws. You see some of it juggling the Gandini juggling combines virtuoso juggling and breathtaking choreography. You'll see a few tandem bikes in your commentary coming up, won't you? Where the visually impaired athletes are behind with a sighted pilot.
So of course those bikes are used in both the track and the road racing.
A couple of different modes of movement there. Wheelchair, rollerblades. Be inline skates, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Apple defying gravity.
Those bikes look like they're in a team pursuit. Well, they were in a team pursuit, now they're exiting the stadium. One team was doing a bit better than the other.
I find my zenith doth depend on a most auspicious star. Miranda, Miranda, your greatest adventure still lies ahead. You've delved into books. You've seen for yourself humanity's shining, limitless possibilities. You've sailed away in search of that light and observed the wonders of science and the universe. And now, your next step. Be yourself. Be who you truly are and help to change the world. For all of us here.
I've beaten the maze. I've come through the storm. Come on. One final step. Our greatest adventure
still lies ahead.
And McKellen was quoting from The Tempest when he said, I find my zenith doth depend on the most auspicious star. We'll see where that most auspicious star is going to go now.
The Large Hadron Collider at CERN is the largest, most complex machine in the world, possibly the universe. By smashing particles together at enormous energies, it recreates the conditions of the Big Bang. The recent discovery of what looks like the Higgs particle is a triumph of human endeavor, an international collaboration. It will change our perception of the world and has the potential to offer insights into a complete theory of everything.
Spasticus autisticus! Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! I nibble when I nibble! My middle is a riddle! Hello to you out there in normal land. You may not comprehend my tale or understand. Who's looking past your window, give me lucky looks. You can be my buddy, but you'll never read my books. I'm Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! I'm Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! I'm Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! Nubbled on the cobbles and I hobble when I wobble! When? Get up! Get up! Get up! Get down! Fall over! Whoa! So place your heart and peanuts in my tin. And thank the Creator, you're not in the state I'm in. So long reviving language on his shelf. I must give all proceedings to myself. I'm Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! Spasticus! Spasticus! Spasticus autisticus! Double and then bubbles, double when I wobble! Yeah!
And so the sculpture is a large-scale reproduction of Mark Quinn's Alison Lapper Pregnant.
Miranda, the time has come. Look up and fly. Break that glass ceiling and set us all free.
So Miranda symbolically there, breaking the glass ceiling.
This is the a short film on the following of a torch as it made its way to the stadium. The lighting of the torches is the official opening of the games. See all the places it's been. Well, not all the places. You see some of the places it's been along the way.
Of course, it visits so many places and is seen by so many people and touches the lives of so many people.
And it's the representation of all that the Games stands for. That fire, for a moment, you're the custodian of that fire, of all that the Games embodies. It's amazingly powerful and daunting moment. Great stories along the way, as you can kind of see from this film. Some who are breaking that glass ceiling for the people around them.
The Paralympic Games is also about transforming our perception of the world. We are all different. There is no such thing as a standard or run-of-the-mill human being, but we share the same human spirit. What is important is that we have the ability to create. This creativity can take many forms, from physical achievement to theoretical physics. However difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. The Games provide an opportunity for athletes to excel, to stretch themselves and become outstanding in their field. So let us together celebrate excellence, friendship, and respect. Good luck to you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Paralympic Flame.
Paralympic flame flying in. Seems only appropriate given the modes of transportation or movement that we've seen thus far.
Absolutely. Defying gravity, defying convention.
Or at least stretching your sense of gravity, right?
But that is a very big drop. From well outside the stadium.
Now, last week there were 4 flames lit at the summit of the high peaks in the 4 UK nations: Scafell Peak in England, Slieve Donard in Northern Ireland, Ben Nevis in Scotland, and Snowdon in Wales. So this is actually Joe Townsend coming in, who has aspirations to be a triathlete in 2016.
Bringing the Paralympic flame into the stadium, Royal Marine.
He doesn't look nervous at all. No, he looks like he's way up in the air.
Reveling.
For Rio 2016, Joe Townsend.
Pretty impressive entrance, to say the least.
Fantastic.
And he's passing it off to David Clark, who is competing this year. So it's a bit of the future going to the present. The question is always who will get to light the cauldron.
What an honour. We know you've done
Continuing
that
the
before.
journey of the Paralympic Flame, competing member of GB Blind Five-a-side football team, David Clark.
I'm sure they've told him to take his time as he moves along because this is such a dramatic moment, but it probably feels like he wants to sprint.
Yeah.
Because he has so much excitement going on.
Absolutely, but you just want to soak it up as well, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, exactly.
The first official Paralympic Games were hosted in Rome in 1960. Now, to light the London 2012 Paralympic cauldron, please welcome Britain's very first Paralympic gold medal winner from those games 52 years ago, Margaret Maughan.
Very first Paralympic Games back in 1960 when they first called them the Paralympics back in Rome. I think from the Olympics you saw this same pedal cauldron, which lit one pedal, which is now lighting the rest of the pedals. It's made up of more than 200 pedals, 166 of which are inscribed with the names of the competing nations after the games. Each competing nation will take home one of the pedals that makes up the cauldron. Again, bringing all these nations together. Sport and the games.
Now that looks pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Beverly Knight, and with her, Caroline Parker and Lizzie M.A.
that is it. The games are officially open.
They are.
What a triumphant end there.
It is. I mean, I think we had an attitude shifting start to what will be a great game. So hopefully there's a sense of reality as we move forward.
What I am and what I am needs no excuses. I deal my own deck. Sometimes the aces, sometimes the deuces. There's a one life, and there's no return and no deposit. One life, so it's time to open your closet. Life of lives. Well, it's not worth a dime till you can say, hey, world, I am what we're gonna modulate the key. We're gonna take this thing higher. Come on, join us there. I am somebody. I am somebody. If you're somebody, sing it. I am somebody. I am somebody. Everybody hear it. I am somebody. Sing it loud and proud, let me hear you. Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the opening ceremony of the London 2012 Paralympic Games. We'd like to wish all the athletes the very best of luck in their endeavours over the next 11 days. We hope you've enjoyed the evening. Do have a safe journey home. Good night.
Well, Chris Waddell, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we've got a very, very full schedule over the next 11 days of competition. So do stay watching Paralympic Sport TV. We'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this traffic station is currently very busy. We strongly recommend using the fastest way to Central London by West Ham. Please follow the directional signs and information provided. For your safety